Something is coming. Something hungry for blood.
What is it? The Demogorgon!
Stranger Things looks chaotic on screen, but the stories happening behind the scenes were even crazier. Directors hiding clues, actors keeping secrets, and moments that changed the entire show's direction. Today, we're counting down the 10 facts fans were never supposed to discover. Fact number 1. Before Stranger Things became the global phenomenon we know, it started as a totally different project called Montauk. The Duffer Brothers originally imagined a cold, lonely coastal town based on real conspiracy rumors linked to government experiments. Their early drafts described abandoned military buildings, strange signals coming from beneath the sand, and missing child cases that felt uncomfortably close to real reports from the 1980s. But the deeper they got into planning, the more impossible it became to film in the real Montauk location. The place was remote, unpredictable, and expensive to work around. So they made a drastic change, moving everything to a fictional town in Indiana. That one decision didn't just change the setting, it reshaped the entire mood of the show. Hawkins became this quiet, too normal to be normal kind of town, which made every creepy moment hit even harder. And here's the part most fans never hear. The shift from Montauk to Hawkins also pushed the brothers to rebuild the story from the ground up. They toned down the ocean-based mysteries, expanded the underground labs, and leaned heavily into that small-town secret experiment vibe. It was like unlocking a new version of the show, one that was darker, tighter, and way more mysterious. But this was only the beginning, because the way they cast the show would change everything that came next. Fact number 2. If you think the kids in Stranger Things were just lucky finds, the truth is way more intense. The casting process was one of the hardest and most competitive in modern TV. The Duffer Brothers didn't just want good child actors, they needed kids who could carry fear, humor, heartbreak, and mystery all at once. So they launched a massive search. They went through over 1,200 auditions, 906 boys and 307 girls, to find the right group. The casting team said the audition room felt like chaos most days, with kids trying to scream, cry, crack jokes, or deliver emotional monologues while hoping to stand out for even 5 seconds. And here's something most fans don't know. Many characters were originally written completely differently. For example, some early script notes described certain kids as colder, more distant, even a bit unsettling. But once the Duffers saw how natural and charismatic the actors were in real life, they rewrote entire personalities. Characters meant to be dark and unlikable suddenly became fan favorites, simply because the actors brought warmth the creators never expected. Millie Bobby Brown almost didn't get the part of 11 because the role originally had far fewer emotional layers. But the moment she delivered her audition, silent, intense, and unsettling in the best way, the entire room went still. The Duffers reportedly said, "That's her, that's the whole show." And this casting magic didn't just fill the roles, it reshaped the entire series. Relationships, character arcs, emotional beats. Everything shifted based on how the actors connected with each other. But the show wasn't just built on great performances. The world around them, the music, the props, the vibe of Hawkins became a character of its own. And that's where the next fact gets even more interesting. Fact number 3. Stranger Things doesn't just look like the 1980s, it feels like it. And that's because the creators didn't treat the 80s as an aesthetic. They treated it like a mission. Every shot, every outfit, every song was chosen to make viewers forget they were watching something modern. The production team spent months studying old catalogues, magazines, school yearbooks, and neighborhood photos, just to understand how real small-town America looked back then. They hunted down vintage bikes, rewired old lamps, and even tracked down curtains and wallpaper patterns that hadn't been printed in decades. Nothing was random, not even the toys scattered in the kids' bedrooms. And the music. That wasn't an afterthought either. The Duffers knew the soundtrack had to hit with the same emotional punch as classic 80s movies. So, they filled the series with eerie synths, retro beats, and nostalgic tracks that could instantly transport viewers back in time. Every note you hear wasn't just picked because it sounded cool, it was picked because it shaped the atmosphere of Hawkins. Even the way the show is lit stays loyal to the era. Instead of modern, clean lighting, they used softer glows, warmer tones, and shadows that give the story that dreamy, slightly unsettling vintage feel. It's not accidental, it's handcrafted. By the time filming started, the cast said stepping onto set felt like entering an actual time machine. Everything around them screamed the 80s. Fact number 4. One of the biggest surprises behind Stranger Things is how little CGI the show actually uses. For a series filled with creatures, portals, and nightmare and dimensions, you'd expect most of it to be digital. But the Duffers wanted the horror to feel physical, not pixel-generated. So they pushed for practical effects, real suits, real slime, real props. The Demogorgon you see in Season 1, most of it was an actor wearing a detailed, hand-built creature suit. Fact number 5. What most fans don't realize is that Stranger Things didn't just create creepy environments. Sometimes the production stepped directly into places that were already filled with unsettling history. And one of the most talked about examples is the prison used in Season 4. The building wasn't just an abandoned structure picked for aesthetic. It was a real former correctional facility with a long, troubled past, linked to incidents, harsh conditions, and stories that locals still whisper about. When the cast and crew first arrived, many said the atmosphere felt too quiet, as if the walls were holding on to memories nobody wanted to bring up. Fact number 6. Stranger Things isn't just a story, it's a puzzle, and the Duffer Brothers filled it with so many hidden clues, callbacks, and Easter eggs that even the most dedicated fans miss half of them. Nothing in this show is random. Every prop, camera angle, music choice, and background detail can lead you somewhere. Many scenes quietly reference classic sci-fi and horror films from the 70s and 80s, the exact movies the Duffers grew up worshipping. You'll find nods to E.T., The Thing, The Shining, and even Alien tucked into the sets and dialogue. Some scenes are framed almost identically to famous shots from those films, but done subtly enough that you won't catch it unless you're looking for it. And then there are the deeper references. For example, the numbers, signs, and codes scattered around Hawkins' lab aren't just decoration. They echo real-world Cold War projects, scientific theories, and government experiments. The Duffers wanted fans to feel like the Upside Down wasn't just fiction, but something rooted in ideas that have been floating around for decades. Fact number 7. Fans love to dissect every moment of Stranger Things as if everything was planned from the beginning. But the truth is far more chaotic. Some of the show's biggest twists, character arcs, and reveals weren't part of the original blueprint at all. They were created on the fly, rewritten during filming, or changed because something unexpected happened behind the scenes. One of the earliest surprises came from the characters themselves. The Duffers noticed that certain actors had insane on-screen chemistry, which sparked new ideas they hadn't even considered. Relationships that were supposed to be minor suddenly became emotional centerpieces, while other storylines meant to be huge were pushed aside because they didn't fit the new energy. Even major villains evolved unexpectedly. Some early drafts showed different creatures, different power levels, and a completely different origin for the Upside Down. But as the show grew darker and the characters became more layered, the writers reshaped the threats to match that intensity. Fact number 8. Stranger Things didn't come out of pure imagination. Some of its most unsettling concepts were inspired by real-world experiments, projects that governments have denied, debated, and buried for decades. The Duffers grew up hearing stories about secret tests, mind experiments, and unexplained events that supposedly took place during the Cold War, and they folded those rumors directly into the DNA of the show. Fact number 9. Did you know the cast of Stranger Things had to follow a strict no spoilers rule that was almost impossible for them to keep? Because Stranger Things became such a massive global phenomenon, Netflix enforced extremely tight security around every season's storyline. The cast, especially the younger actors, weren't allowed to talk about scripts outside the set, couldn't share photos from filming, and sometimes didn't even receive full scripts themselves. They only got the scenes they were part of just to prevent accidental leaks. Millie Bobby Brown once said that she couldn't even tell her best friends what she was filming because the producers warned everyone that even a tiny hint could spoil major twists. The kids had to practice interviews so they wouldn't accidentally reveal anything, especially characters like Noah Schnapp, who kept slipping spoilers by mistake. This no spoiler zone became so intense that even some of the parents didn't know what was happening in the show until it aired. It was all to protect the mystery, suspense, and big surprises that Stranger Things is famous for. Fact number 10. The Upside Down wasn't fully planned from the beginning. Its look and rules were shaped slowly as the seasons were created. When Stranger Things first started, the Duffer Brothers had only a basic idea of what the Upside Down was supposed to be, a dark parallel version of Hawkins filled with danger. But many of the details fans now love were actually developed after the show started filming. The exact design of the world, the mysterious particles floating in the air, the creature's biology, and even the way the dimension connects to Hawkins were refined over time. For example, the Mind Flayer and Vecna weren't even part of the early concept. As the story grew, the creators expanded the mythology, adding layers and backstories that made the Upside Down feel deeper and more connected. Even the iconic look, the fog, the vines, the eerie red lighting, was adjusted through experiments with special effects, lighting, and sound design. The Duffer Brothers once said that the Upside Down evolved because they wanted it to feel like a mix between a nightmare, a sci-fi world, and a classic monster movie. So each season introduced new visual elements and new rules to make the universe feel bigger and more mysterious. This slow-building approach is part of why Stranger Things feels so rich and unpredictable. It wasn't all pre-written, it was crafted piece by piece.
All right, guys, that's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Tell me which fact you didn't know or which one you liked the most. I love reading your comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.